For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. We've got some breaking news for you, everybody. Breaking news. Big breaking news after the break. All right. So, can you guess what I'm going to be talking about on the show today? Oh, the news business. The news business. That's sensational. To hype it up. Make you scared. Oh, boy, there's a big story. And you're like, breaking news just doesn't have the same meaning that it did back in the day, all right? So me, who's been in the news biz for, over 20 years now, has a take, and I can kind of relate to the average viewer, reader, however you're consuming your news. I can sort of relate to you, the common folk, but at the same time, I'm disappointed about what's happening with my industry. I'm going to be talking about that on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here on The Scribble. All right, so it's always a hot topic that nobody trusts, or most people, a lot of people, don't trust the news media. And that could be everything from, pandemic misinformation about, one day it's this, the next day it's that. Then we have medical professionals. One says this, one says that. Who do you trust, right? Like, it's just kind of, I don't know where to turn. I don't know. Well, I read this, or I heard this, or somebody said this. I saw, Joe Rogan said this, so it must be. And as somebody who's been in the news, let me actually just back up, right? Because I majored in journalism, 20... Let me see, I'm 40, I'm 23. Yes, I am. I'm 43. But I majored in journalism when I was, I guess I was 23 actually, now that I think of it. So, 20 years ago I was in school, and, that was very, you had to be impartial. I never liked the tabloid in our city, right? We had a broadsheet, which is like the big newspaper, and then we had a tabloid, which was the smaller sheets of paper, right? Or the smaller fold or whatever. The tabloid was always the one that read like a book. You go from left to right. The broadsheet was the bigger paper that you had to unfold first, and then you flip left to right, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I never liked that the tabloid newspaper always editorialized on the headline on the front page. So you know what a tabloid newspaper is, right? That's generally the one that has like the giant picture and then the big font headline. And in New York, it's the New York Post, and it'll have, like Gavin Newscum, or it'll have some kind of a play on words, right? But it'll be, and so I never liked when they would have, in my local paper, they would have a story. Let's say there was let me think of an example off the top of my head. There was a child molester or some kind of, convicted child predator. And the headline would be, pervert sentenced, pervert jailed. And I'm not disagreeing with that the person's a pervert. What I'm saying is it's not up to the newspaper to draw that conclusion for you as the reader, right? So that's where I always took issue, because as an aspiring journalist and somebody who was going through school at the time, I was like, wait a second, that's not kind of how we're being taught. With journalism, it's kind of like you put it out there, you let the reader decide for themselves. Is this guy a pervert? Is he not? And so that's where I thought, I kind of saw that creeping in. But because the paper was known as in the city, that's just kind of what that was the reputation that it had, that it did call people scum. It did, the reporting did things like that. And it was always kind of just the headlines. I realized that it was more just to grab your attention and get you to read the story. Now we would call that clickbait, right? So fast forward to today, though, where I think one of the issues is that everybody has a platform now. Now, don't get me wrong. My company is called Speak Free Media, so I'm all about people speaking their mind and having an opinion. But here's the thing. When we were limited back in the day to only your local TV stations, your local radio stations, not everybody had a platform. And you know what? Maybe that was kind of a good thing. Maybe we didn't need to hear everybody. Maybe we didn't need to hear everybody all the time, anywhere, everywhere, right? Because how many times have you seen on social media people saying, I'm unplugging this weekend. I am taking a break from social media. That's another thing. I don't understand those big announcements. Just fucking go. Like, why do you need to do... I always see the clapback is, this isn't the airport. No need to announce your departure. Like, just fucking go. It's going to be 2 days. And you know very well, damn well that person who's allegedly taking a break just means that they're not posting for a couple days. You know they're still going to be creeping the sidelines and scrolling and looking and seeing what everybody's doing, because that's just how they are. So, because everybody has a platform now, everybody's a news outlet, essentially. And that was something that I did not like when blogs came around, because as a newspaper columnist, right, I've been paid by the newspaper for 20-some years. I would go on, press trips, or I would go and somebody would recognize me or know me. Oh, I read your blog. Oh, I saw your blog. And I would get offended by that. And trained journalists back in the day, if you had said to a respected journalist, let's say, again, you're Katie Couric, you're, whoever, you're Lester Holt, you're Anderson Cooper, you're whoever it is. I saw your blog. Well, no, I'm a trained journalist. It's a column. It's right? Like it's more, but we've now bastardized it because we've downgraded. We've dumbed it down. Same thing with a radio show. I was a syndicated radio host on, top 40 stations with a music show, covering entertainment and interviewing celebrities and going to red carpets and whatever. And people would say, oh, I listened to your podcast. I don't have a fucking podcast. I have a syndicated radio show. So news is still there, but it's just changed form to be like audience participation, I guess, is what it's turned into, right? You would come home from work, again, we're going back in time here. You would come home from work, you'd have dinner, you'd put on the 6 o'clock news, you would see what's happened throughout the day. That's your catch up in what's going on in the world, because you were focused on your job. You were doing, or you're in school, whatever you were doing. You were not glued to the 24/7 world, like all around you. You were focused in what was happening in that moment. That's just the way it was. You didn't have this exposure. You came home at 6 o'clock. That's when you saw, oh my God, there was a fire downtown. Oh my God, such and such is in a political scandal, right? Like you didn't know this the second that it happened, and that was fine, because you know what? It let you focus on what you were actually doing, and not in the middle of typing something at work. You get a notification, and now you're scrolling your phone, and then you're like, oh shit, it's been 10 minutes. I should. What was I typing again? Oh, do I need to? Oh, it's lunchtime now. I got to go for lunch now. Okay, perfect. No, you were in that zone. You were in that bubble. And I said the same thing about when cell phones came out, right? Before, you would have to wait until you got home to listen to your answering machine to see if somebody called you, right? There wasn't this instant, you didn't have people freaking out because you haven't responded in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. They might take 7 hours to get back to you because you left a message when they were at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're just coming home now at 5:30, and they missed you. Oh, well. So with news, there's that. So we've opened up the floodgates for everybody to basically have their own news channel, their own, information stream. And there's no fact checking. There's just no, somebody. I saw this on social media in my hometown a couple of years ago. Do we still have it on my screen? I just saw it. Hold on a second. Let me just click around. You're going to hear me clicking. I don't normally click around when I'm doing the show, but I thought we had it on the desktop. Yes, here we go. I think this is it. It says, it's got the street names, raided an apartment with 26 girls, Gurls, inside, Fuken sad, Fuken, sad, maybe anyone missing anyone should check with the police again to see if any of the missing girls were in that raid. So, I mean, that right there is an alarming kind of claim. I mean, over 2 dozen, I'm assuming children, I mean, even though they use the word girls, Gurls, but I mean, I'm sorry, if there's 2 dozen girls that are being, whatever, held hostage or, kidnapped or raped or whatever, trafficked in some sort of way, I mean, that's a massive story. So, without any sort of substantiating claims, without any sort of verification, they just post that. Well, you know what happens then, right? We've got 60, 70, 80 comments, everybody chiming in. So, when I see that, I was like, I'm in local media, so let me just reach out to the police. I know the PR people, just see. So I sent them the screenshot. I took it and sent them the Facebook post, and I was like, what can you tell me about this? Like, what's going on? They responded within a few minutes. Yeah, we have no reports of that. Because it even says the street names. I just didn't read them here, but the first 4 words are the streets. And no, so the police just responded like, no, we've got no information about that. So that's something where that's not something the police are going to downplay, especially if you're getting questions from the media. And, I don't know. But this is exactly my point, though, is you have some random person who uses the word girls, Gurls, fucking sad, and people are taking that as actual news, like that this happened, and there's now this community outrage, and now there's this big, and I'm thinking, nobody, from what I saw, like I said, the comments were coming in fast and furious, so I did not see everything, that's my disclaimer, but the ones that I did see were people just like getting fired up and outraged, and it's just causing this big, I think going, are people, like, nobody has any questions about this? Nobody's even deciding to go and say, well, it's not on the news. Nobody's saying anything. Now, then you did see these theories that, well, because they were, indigenous girls or kids or whatever it was, that wasn't going to get covered. No, excuse me. I'm not denying that there's racism in the world, but 26 girls, whether they are white, black, whatever, that's going to make the news. In one way or another, it's going to make the news. I promise you that. There is no way that that's not going to be picked up and broadcast somewhere, aside from some random person's community Facebook page, right? So there's that, and I'm kind of sitting here going, wait a second, though. When I, worked for the Winnipeg Free Press or just different newspapers and outlets that I've worked for, like, I'm not, as the audience, I'm not believing those major outlets, but I'm believing Betty Smith, who just posted this on Facebook. Why do I automatically, without even knowing who the fuck she is, why am I trusting Betty Smith? Why am I trusting Betty Smith? But if I called the Winnipeg Free Press and asked them, have you heard about this? What's going on? And they say, we don't know anything about it. Well, they're fucking liars. They're racist. They're whatever. Why? But Betty said so. Betty said so. Right? I mean, this is the thing. So that's, we've come to the point where, yeah, we're willing, or people are willing to believe just because I saw it. Now, the joke years ago was, well, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. But for some reason, now that social media is around, which social media is the internet, let's be honest. I mean, why are we now, it's okay to believe it. If we looked at internet with an eye of skepticism, or what do you call it? Not an eye of skepticism, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But yet, all of a sudden now, social media has gone through some kind of a vetting process. Like, it's kind of like, oh, all right. So there's that. But the other issue with the news media, and this is where I do agree with the reputation that it has nowadays, and it's weird when you're in the industry to be commenting on something like this, but having already said it once on this show, I don't care for social media. Even when I was doing our big radio shows, I was not doing stupid, silly posts. Because that's not me. And if you listened to my radio shows, you would know that, well, he's not going to be the stupid guy who's making dance videos with his dogs. That's just not who I am. So when you watch, and I see it all the time, where you have these news anchors, the whole big thing is, news anchors, before the show, making dance videos on the set. The meteorologist is busting a move. The main anchor, we're watching her put on her makeup, or we see these big glam shots of her standing in front of the weather map before doing the show. And I mean, you look at that and go, okay, is this news or is this entertainment? Am I supposed to be like in awe that Janice Jones, the meteorologist, looks so glam today, or am I tuning in for the fucking weather to find out if my house is going to get whipped around by a tornado? Like, why do I care what Janice's shoes are today? Why am I having to watch Janice put on makeup before doing the show? And now I've got to believe Janice when she says, "Run for your life, there's a tornado coming to your house." Because Janice is my friend now. I look up to Janice now because she's so gorgeous. So I've got it. I tune in because maybe Janice should be using her TV station Instagram account for giving me the weather and posting updates and, doing stories about what her job is, which is what she's dedicated that Instagram page for, right? That's why she has the 40,000 followers. That's why people are clicking, because she's on the news. And it's all about me TV is what we say in the industry now. It's these, you see the selfies of the reporter the reporter covering the flood, and he's doing a big selfie, or she's doing a selfie in her rain boots, and the shot is always, you see the camera too in front of them, right? The TV camera, and they're getting ready for their shot, and you're just like, why do you're kind of missing the point here. You're not the story. And by the way, you're in a neighborhood where people are basically losing their entire livelihoods and their every precious belonging they have. And here you are in your big rain boots, like, haha, I'm on the scene. I'm the hero. No, you're not. We don't fucking care. And it's even national news anchors that are doing this. I've commented a couple of times where you'll have like the guy from ABC News who's on the scene, and we've got the still shot of him, standing on the scene. And we're like, it's your fucking job. Of course you're there. Like, why do you need to have to get this attention for just doing your job as though it's, or the another one is, another long day of reporting. Oh my God, been outside all day in the rain. Okay, but you're also going home to a roof over your head and a bed to sleep in. But that person behind you whose house just washed away? No, not the same. Doesn't have that same luxury tonight. So there's a couple of issues there with what I was just saying. One, we're watching, Betty put on her makeup and looking at her shoes and her fabulous dress. And then on the other hand, we're basically watching these people get ready for their 35 seconds on TV as though it's their big moment. It's like, but it's true. Does think about it, Burger King employee, McDonald's, whoever, flipping burgers, doing a selfie at the grill every time they flip a fucking burger. Oh, it's your job. Of course you're going to do it. Why do we need to see the behind this? We don't need to see you standing at the grill every 3 days. That's just not, it's like the only industry where, people are giving you this glimpse into, but yet your whole job is being front and center visually anyway. But now it's like you're a celebrity, and we've gone into like this entertainment kind of an aspect of your Instagram feed or page or whatever you call it. So that's also where people are like, okay, wait a second. And people say it about CNN, right? We're watching Anderson Cooper and whoever get fucking sloshed. And then the next day, you're kind of like, oh, now he's going to talk about the war in Ukraine. Oh, okay, now he's going to talk about Putin bombing. And it's like, but it's fine that you're a real person. I can watch, you can cut loose with the rest of them. But I would never have thought to see Walter Cronkite. Well, I wasn't around for Walter Cronkite, but Dan Rather, I guess, was, the big news anchor when I was growing up. Or Peter Jennings, fellow Canadian. You wouldn't, I don't want to, even if I saw him at like a New Year's Eve party somewhere in public, I don't want to see him doing shots and getting loaded, because you also just didn't do that when you were in the business. And same thing with me, like, when I was doing my Winnipeg cheapskate thing, it's over 10 years ago, well, 15 years maybe now, well, but 10, there were still just rules about how I conducted myself in public. And I wasn't even like an actual employee of the paper. I was just, brought in as like contract talent. But still, I had to, watch what I did on social media. I couldn't be, spewing hate-filled stuff online or some, because I'm connected in a roundabout way. I'm connected to the newspaper, and my reputation is their reputation, and vice versa. Their reputation is my reputation. If the newspaper is caught up in a scandal and it's like, oh, well, you take their money by creating content for them, so you're just as, I accept that. So there's just this weird kind of blurred line where, so is Anderson just like a regular guy doing shots, and then I can still take him seriously, tomorrow when he's at the anchor desk? Or is it just, he's just, there isn't that line. I don't know. It used to be, it's like this kind of, if you'd go out in public somewhere back when, 20 years ago, the 6 p.m. news anchor or whoever it was kind of a celebrity. Like, that was actually kind of a big deal. If you went to a restaurant and they were there, you weren't going up and asking for autographs or anything, but it was still just kind of like there she is. Oh, that's her. Did you see? That's same kind of a thing. By the way, when my cousin, her husband retired a few years ago, and they are friends with, the woman was a meteorologist in our city for like 30 some years. She retired quite a while back. But she was at this retirement dinner for my cousin's husband, my cousin-in-law, I guess you'd call him. Even then, our family was like, oh my God, that's Sylvia Cusick? Yeah, that's Sylvia Cusick, right? She's been off TV for like 15 years, but people were still having that reaction. Now, though, you go, I mean, it's like, I don't even know who's hosting my local news because there's either just such a rotation of people or, but back then, it was a little bit of a community. We all kind of knew each other or at least each other's names. Right now, I could not tell you the main anchor on Global News in Winnipeg. No idea. I know the anchor for CTV Winnipeg, Marilee Caruso, because I know her, but otherwise, I mean, like, I just don't know anybody because I'm so tuned out. Much of my time is not in Winnipeg anymore, but still, I would know the main anchors of the shows. So there's just this weird kind of, all right, you want to be popular with All About Me TV, so you've got to do that separation, because how is your audience now going to respect your reporting when they see you? How do they take seriously what you're saying on TV when 20 minutes ago we just watched you putting on lipstick and talked about the dress you're wearing for your show today? What's more important, the news that you're reporting or you making yourself the story, in your news job? So there you go. There's my rant on that. We've got to I'm going to take a break because we're 20 minutes in now and they are saying go, go, go. We'll be back on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here on The Scribble. Let me continue on about cable news, because, back in the day when I was in high school, I was obsessed with CNN, and what intrigued me the most was you could basically watch any kind of a live major news event happening in real time. So that would be anything from... The ones that I really liked were when there would be a plane making an emergency landing, and then all of a sudden, CNN would just be, you're watching, okay, the cameras are trained in New York, and they're on the runway, or they're, at the airport, or whatever it is. And I was just fascinated by watching something play out like that, right? Or a big fire, right? Like there might be, whatever, a historic, building or some kind of monument or whatever burning down. And yes, it was devastating to see the loss, but at the same time, like, that's what just... It totally had me enthralled with this whole news thing. And so that's what cable news was back in the day. It was 24-hour news. Now, the primetime shows, if you do watch CNN or any of them on the cable news networks, they have commentators. They have, an opening monologue or whatever you want to call it, opening commentary for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then they bring in a panel to discuss. So they might give you the news story for, a minute and a half or however long the story is, and then they have a panel discussing it for the next 15 minutes and arguing and yelling and insulting and talking over, and you're just like, can we just get to the next news story? And at the same time, whoever's on at 7 o'clock is just going to be talking about the exact same thing at 8 o'clock. And then if it's the next show at 9 o'clock, it's going to be different people on the panel, but it's going to be the exact same stories. So it's just kind of weird because you're like, of all the things happening in the world, they're kind of really just going over the same 3 stories in primetime every night. Now, I realize in today's world, it's a lot about Trump because of just, every possible thing that happens every single day in his administration. But tell us the stories and then get onto other world stuff. I'm sure there's emergency plane landings quite regularly, because they have, parts falling from the sky or, doors flying out or whatever it is. But I've just noticed that cable news has just really changed. I would have CNN on my TV back when, again, I lived with my parents and I had those little tiny 13-inch TVs. CNN, the logo, on the corner of the screen, the bug it's called, it was literally burned into my screen because I would have it on, I would fall asleep to it, I would, have it on all evening, I would just, that's how much I would watch it. And so I could, just be intrigued by going from one story to the next. Okay, there's a fire in Boston. Okay, there's an emergency plane landing in New York. Okay, there is a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh. And now there's, that's what they were doing. They were going story to story to story. And now it's just, let's just interview politicians all day, and then we'll have a panel discuss what they say, and then we'll bring in the next politician to respond to Trump, and then the next politician to do this, and then argue about it and challenge them. And, Jake Tapper took heat with his book about Biden's, cognitive decline or whatever you want to call it. And people were saying, Jon Stewart, if you watched The Daily Show, this was a few months ago now, but, he was like, you're in the news business. Why aren't you telling us this on the news that you're being paid for rather than putting a book about it later on and then making millions off of that? That's just another notch down on the credibility scale, because sure, he might have a well-informed book that he's pushing, but why you got a book deal though, and you're making money off it. I realize that all these people who leave the Trump administration or whatever it is then go and write books and make a lot of money off it. But as in the news business, right, there's just something different when you're in the news business. So it's now not news, at least in prime time. Well, anytime on cable news. Anytime on cable news, if you think about it, I don't know when I'm talking about an actual news show. So let's say CNN, they have that 3-hour afternoon news show, whatever it's called, or MSNBC has, a 1-hour show. But again, they're all generally commentary. They're comment, they're topic, they're panel shows. But back in the day, it was CNN, the anchors would sit there, and it's we go to this story now, we go to this city with this person, it wasn't, we go to this person for the story, and now 3 people here to discuss the story. Just give us the fucking news, like I said at the top of the show. Give me the news, let me make my informed decision. Let me research, let me find out more, let me go and hear what the facts are from both sides, whatever it is in your story. You're not going to influence me one way or the other, but you're going to just present to me what happened. And leave it at that. That's what news was. Because there was nothing to not trust, right? Because when you're just giving me and you're showing me what has happened, whether it's that plane crash or bridge collapse or, whatever it is, you're letting me see, you're giving me the facts, okay? This is a 100-year-old building. There was nobody inside. There was artifacts. The fire department says that this is the cause. This is the amount of damage. There we go. It's not that now we're going to dig the story and go, well, who built this? Was it a DEI hire back then? Was it a blah, blah, blah? No, it's just, this is the facts of the story. This is what happened. Move on to the next story. We don't need to have the story about the church burning down, and now we're going to go and talk to some reverend from another country to hear about his connection to something, who he went to that church one time 43 years ago, and what his thoughts are, and how do you feel that the Trump administration is treating you? What do you think of the new pope? No, here's the story is the church burned down, sad though it is, and now we move on to the next story. It's not now discussed by 4 people, 5 people, right? When we have a school shooting, when we have whatever, a terrorist attack, whatever it is, give me the facts from the reporter on the scene, and that's that. I don't need a retired FBI guy speculating, because he's not even working the fucking case. He's not even on the case, but he's speculating, and this is this, and this is going to happen next, and I suspect, and I think, well, this will be happening. Just give me the fucking news. Don't spend 45 minutes pontificating, speculating, hypothesizing. No! Give me the news, move on to the next fucking story. If you don't have enough information to fill the 45 minutes of time that you're killing, move the fuck on. It was like when they announced that Biden had cancer, prostate cancer, I think, right? This is, again, going back to April, or was it? It was May? Somebody was going to tell me it was May. That I remember joking, going, okay, here, CNN's going to now have 7 hours of uninterrupted coverage, bringing in every single goddamn person who's ever met Joe Biden, every person who's ever had prostate cancer, every doctor, everybody's going to chime in on this. And it's like, he's a former president. He's got cancer. Sad story. Wish him the best. Tell us what his last previous records were. Go into the archives, find out what his last physicals were or whatever when he was president, because I think they made those records public. Go in, see, was there anything? Was it this? Is that? Maybe ask some questions. But then it was like this big scandal of, why didn't we know? Why didn't we know? He's not the president anymore. So who the fuck cares? So if they covered it up and they got away with it, and they didn't, well, they fooled you. So now we're going to discuss it for the next 3 weeks if we were duped by the Biden administration. Well, they're done. What are you going to do? Vote them out? You did. He's gone. So this is why. See, I don't have a dislike of the news industry because, like I said, I've been in it for so long. I just find that I just kind of check out. I don't take it seriously. It used to be kind of entertaining to watch the CNN show have the, like I said, the argument, the fight. Ana Navarro used to be, as a Latino, I'm offended. It's like, that was her claim to fame. Like, that was just her big, as Latino, I'm offended. That's all we ever heard. That's how I knew her before she came onto The View. Whenever I heard Ana Navarro, I'm just like, oh, here we are. She's gonna chime in as a Latino woman, and there you go. And that's, and that was kind of like, oh my God, like she's really losing it. But now, all these years later, you're just like, it's old. I don't care. Change it. Just give me the fucking story for the first 2 minutes, and then I'm on my way. So, is that why viewership is down? Is that why, people don't trust? I mean, it kind of all goes hand in hand. If you don't trust, you're not going to tune in. So, that's what's going on. But yet, we're going to believe, as we just saw, the Fukin girls, we'll believe something like that. So, as I've always said to people, are you going to trust somebody who doesn't source their information, so if you're going to tell me that there's 26 or whatever girls arrested, do you have a picture of it? Do you have anything? Like, do you have all the police cars outside? Because that might make it a little bit more believable. But if the person, and I'm giving you a tip here, dear listener, but if the person is not giving you a source, because in journalism school, we were taught to cite your source. I was going to say source your source. We were taught to cite your source. Says who? I remember Duncan McMonagall, my journalism instructor, writing says, S-E-Z, I'm a Canadian, Z, says who. That's how you it's not just me coming up with it. It's not Jeremy just saying 32 people were injured in the plane crash. No. American Airlines or whoever said, right, you've got to attribute it to somebody. Tell me who your information came from. And then I can go and say, okay, that's a credible source. I laughed not too long ago on KTLA, the local news in Los Angeles. There was an earthquake, and it was not even like 5 minutes later, they bring in somebody on the phone to tell us what you felt. Tell us what. It was a fucking child. It was a child. Oh, but my room shook and the pictures on my wall. And I just remember going, I'm sorry, there's how many millions of people in Los Angeles, and your first person that you have on the phone is a kid talking about their bedroom. And then it's like, the anchor's like, oh, can you put your mom on? Can we talk to your mom? And I'm thinking, this is an earthquake, and you're bringing in a 5-year-old? Really? That was the only person you could get. That was the first. Was this just somebody's kid from the newsroom that called in? Like, how do you? So, says who? Who is your source? And the reason why people never really understand why you put an age when you're putting a quote, because that you could just exactly that. Well, Jocelyn Robertson Okay, well, is that a 40-year-old or is that a 5-year-old? Because a 40-year-old, their word is going to have a little bit more, but a 5-year-old, I'm going to go and say, it's a fucking 5-year-old, okay? So that's why your age is generally put when you're covered in a news story, and the reporter asks your age, they'll put that. So, you cite your source. So if you're reading a report online on Facebook, that would be my first question is, who told you that? Did you see it with your own eyes? Or is it just your neighbor told you? Because that's one thing that I've never liked about blogs or these travel bloggers or food bloggers. Like when we would do travel programming, we're out of time. I know. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep going. But that was the difference for me as a journalist versus a blogger. As a journalist, when we were doing travel tourism programming for our radio shows, I was interviewing people, we had sources, we had facts, we gave information, versus a blogger who's going there and basically just giving you their opinion and their observations, right? A blogger is one thing, and a journalist, when I was reporting from the scene of different events or activities or excursions, whatever, I'm giving facts, I'm interviewing the owner of the building, we're doing some back and forth, and now I'm presenting it for the audience, and you can decide if it's something that you want to go to. As opposed to the person who's taking a picture of their food and going, this dessert was yummy. I loved the steak. Look at how pretty this steak is. Okay. But at the same time, I'm going to sit there and go, were you given that steak for free? Because that's why you're saying nice things about it. Yeah. You have to remember that too, right? A blogger or whatever, is getting the free products. So generally, it was the same thing when I was on the radio. We've got product endorsements or whatever it is. Well, I'm being paid to enjoy it. So that's something. And the difference, like I said, with the tourism programming is, yes, the tourism board was paying to be on our shows, but at the same time, I'm asking questions and I'm talking from the user's perspective, having done the activity or the excursion that we're on, and I'm telling you my firsthand account. Now I'm asking the owner about it. I'm not saying that was the best ever. I love this. No, it was a really fun time. It was. Now, if it was not a fun time, I'm not going to say it was a fun time. I'm just going to say, well, that was an interesting experience, because that's what a journalist would do, right? So always think about that. And by the way, on TV news now, the products that are just being promoted, when you, again, thinking back to Los Angeles, where the morning show has all these different like product placements and whatever, think about it. Those companies are paying to be on the news. It's basically a very short infomercial. So when you're seeing that it's National Pizza Day and there's 3 local pizzerias on there, that's probably a paid segment where it's pay to play. Just that's some insider information about the news biz now, okay? Just so you know. We're out of time. I'm ending the show right now. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I'd love to know your thoughts on the news, the media biz. The email address is live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. I will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter @thescribbleshow. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some